Do we think the Exumas are better than the San Blas Islands? 30 categories that we're going to compare. Is it worth it? Last week we compared the Exumas to the San Blas in 15 categories. This week we're going to add 18 more categories of comparison and then tell you which one we think is the winner out of the two. So here we go.
If you appreciate material like this, please hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button, share. Also, please consider joining our Patreon group. All that information is down in the description, link to how you can do that. And we love our patrons. Thank you so much for your support and encouragement. Enough talking, let's get started. Culture and history. Oh, this is a big one. Both cultures are just beautiful. The people are amazing, kind and friendly and for sure helpful. We just love both the Bahamians and the Kunas. In the Exumas, you have the Bahamian culture, which is more colonial. It's more British, so it's a lot more formal, more sophisticated. Crazy friendly. Love the Bahamians. Body's fresh corn salad. We got the conchias corn salad. You can't get it no conchia than that. But in Panama, in the San Blas, you've got these Kuna Indians, and let me tell you what, they're worth visiting because they're some of the nicest people that I've ever met.
Hola, señor. ¿Cuál es su nombre?
Yeah, this is my place.
Beautiful.
Your name, Kate?
Brown.
Brown.
Yes.
Kind and patient. And they have a rich culture that goes back thousands of years and has evolved since the Spaniards came back in the 1500s. They've had a revolution down here. We've also had the canal built. It's a very dynamic place as far as history is concerned. And of course, the molas. This is the only place in the world where you can see and purchase molas, which are just incredible textiles. So I'd have to give the vote to the Kunas. Oh, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about the cruiser community and maybe talk about the number of cruisers first. The Exumas was packed with boats, with multi-million-dollar yachts and cruisers, mainly I would say the United States, but also from Europe, very Western, and a lot of them. You've got all these big mega yachts, so it's very crowded during the peak season, and you're competing for fewer anchorages there. The type of boats are newer, more showier. There's Catamarans. There's a lot more money. And down in the San Blas, because being further away, and also closer to the canal, it's much more international. And I'd say there are very few Americans here. And there are also a lot fewer boats. And a lot more monohulls. So in terms of the community, I think I like the cruising community in the San Blas more than I do the Exumas. Yes. I feel like in the San Blas, it's very casual. There's less of a formality to sailing. It's so laid back down here. It's interesting with all the different cultures. And we really like that. So we'll have to give the vote to San Blas. But where are the famous people? Famous people flock to the Exumas. Just never know who you're going to see down there. And we'll give you a few examples.
Now count of three because her other signature phrase just loves it.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Love it!
We ran into Paris Hilton at the Bubble Bath. We anchored outside the Arnaud family island and had a little bit of a tiff with the Arnauds. You gotta check this video out right here. It's gonna give you some good advice as well as show you our experience with the world's richest family. So it's very star-studded. There are no stars down here, and we love it because, you know, we just fit right in, right? Exactly. So I would have to say a tag for the San Blas Islands on that one. So a category that doesn't really influence us at all, but we wanted to mention it, is where's the best place for kids? And totally. For the Exumas, especially in Georgetown, a lot of families that homeschool go to Georgetown, and they have a massive number of kids there and activities for children. In the San Blas Islands, we met one couple with some young kids, and they were just dying to have some friends. We would say if you have children and you're going to sail for a season, you know, the cultural aspect of this is phenomenal for them, but if they want to have friends cruising with them, they're not going to find it here.
And if you want to share duties as far as homeschooling is concerned, we would say Exumas. Something that we haven't talked about is you need to learn how to speak Spanish when you're down here. I'm on Duolingo. You need to practice before you get down here. In the Bahamas, it's all English, but it's a big deal. And even I've learned to hablo Espanol down here, because without it, you're totally useless. You can't be polite, and you just feel dumb without it. And
that is very true.
But I'm practicing all the time, and I use it down here.
We use Spanish all the time.
For
That's
sure.
a great point.
¿Tu nombre?
Yonis.
Mucho gusto, Jonas.
Sí.
Muy bonita pueblo. Tu hermana? Me llamo Brown. ¿Y tú?
Sí.
Acá, no problema. Allí no.
pay tax. Y
Okay.
puedes comprar,
Okay.
visitar.
¿Jefe de uno?
No, él.
Oh, jefe. ¿Restaurante abre ahora o no? Esta semana no.
I like speaking a foreign language.
Yeah.
I would choose that over the English of Bahamas.
For sure.
Even though it's more challenging.
And you know, cruising is all about learning new skills and having a growth mindset. And learning new languages is a big deal. When it comes to languages, we've got to give the Bahamas the winner there.
No, I think it's Panama gets the winner because
We disagree.
we get challenged by the Spanish. It's really
Wow.
interesting.
Babe, you
Something new.
know your point's really well made. Well, if you want to grow coming down the San Blas and learning Spanish and getting more fluent, this is the choice down here. Okay, so I'm agreeing with you there.
The category that I think you'll find interesting is what is banned in each of these places. And there's only one thing that we know of that's banned in the Exumas, and that's the spear gun.
Or you can't have fish traps either. But that helps you get better at your skills using a pole spear. It's more sporting, which gives you more exercise. You got to really hone your skills. However, in the San Blas,
They have a lot of things banned, like pets, scuba diving, smoking, burning, flying drones, windsurfing, spearfishing, jet skis, kite skis, water skis, swimming between islands.
even though there are more rules down here, nothing's really enforced. But as a cruiser, we respect all those things and don't take advantage of them.
Let's talk restaurants, because that's always an important part, not having to cook on the boat and just taking a break.
I
And
thought you liked my cooking.
I love your cooking, but sometimes you just want to eat out. So in the Exumas, you can find restaurants in Georgetown, at Black Point, in Staniel Key, and Highborn. You're going to pay a lot of money to go out
Oh
to eat,
my goodness.
but you have
And
access.
yeah, and also it's hard to get a reservation, and there's more people competing for those fewer spots.
In the San Blas Islands, the Kunas set up shacks on the beach, and they serve very inexpensive dinners. Now, even in the East Hollandis was an exception. His was $20 for a 3-course meal. Outside of that, you'll pay $7, $8 for a plate with fish and vegetable and
it's
rice.
very
yeah.
basic, but it's super fresh. They're pretty much on every island down here, so it's not hard to find these little basic restaurants if
Yeah.
that's what you're looking for.
One of the things I loved too was Eben's restaurant. He would every morning deliver fresh baked focaccia
That was
and
pretty cool.
coconut rolls to your boat if you ordered them the night before. So you're really spoiled in the San Blas when
Yeah.
it comes to some things. The cost of cruising is always something that people want to know, and in the Bahamas, the 1-year cruising permit is $600, and with that comes a fishing license. In the San Blas Islands, it's less than $600. But you do get nickel and dimed a little bit, so you get your initial fees to get in, and then when you get to the San Blas Islands, the Congreso comes out and charges you $90 to be there per month. But they only really hit one island, so if you go to that island, you'll get hit, and then you won't see them again for the rest of your time.
Well, and that's part of the history that we talked about. San Blas is considered an autonomously governed area that is in Panama but separate from Panama. So Gunayala, as the locals call it, the San Blas was given by the Spanish, and they really don't like that term. They have their own laws, and when they say you got to pay, you got to pony up. But it's not a lot, and it's totally worth it.
There are island fees too. If you drop anchor near a village, the village will come out and charge you. And a lot of that is because Westerners were coming onto their land and taking photos of their people, and they just kind of got tired of it, so they just said, let's just charge an anchoring fee, and then that invites people to come on land and they can video as they wish. So there aren't any island fees in the Exumas, and here you might pay $10 or $20 depending on if the island is occupied by a village. It's just something to be aware of. In total, though, the cost of cruising is less than the Bahamas.
So we're going to give the vote to the San Blas.
Still cheaper, yeah.
For sure.
Access to parts is really important. In the Exumas, you could ship to Georgetown, but it was so complicated. There were...
And expensive.
Yes. Custom fees. You needed to use a
hassle.
customs agent because the process was so complicated, and if you didn't use an agent, you probably weren't going to get your items. Really not an easy thing.
And there are no marine stores, really, anywhere. Fat chance on finding anything local, and you're going to pay out the wazoo for it. San Blas, Panama, different story.
You can ship in with a freight forwarder to Panama City, and it's very low price. They deliver to any of the marinas, which are at least an hour outside of Panama City. There's no duty, no customs, so that's a wonderful part about sending something to Panama.
And this goes back to, I think this is really worth mentioning, back to the history of Panama, especially the history with America, that we are much more joined at the hip. We're very friendly to the Bahamas, but because of the canal, they accept US dollars down here, and there are more lines of trade going back and forth, which are cheaper and a lot more convenient.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to communication, because when you're cruising, you want to be able to be connected back to the mainland and to your family. And with Starlink, that's just a game changer. Starlink is available in both the Exumas and here, and is very easy to use, and it's actually just a tad bit more expensive than the Alive that we used for the Exumas. Once a lot of boats started using it, the network was so slow, and at certain times you had to raise that puck up the mast to just be able to get service.
And it was not high speed either.
So that's really what your options are, unless you go with either a US-based service or with Starlink.
Starlink has changed everything, and it's actually made the San Blas a lot more accessible.
Before Starlink, Claro and Tigo are the SIM cards you can buy, and they work in most of the San Blas, but not in the Eastern Hollandaise. So Starlink is really the way. All right, medical help. In the event of an emergency, what is the possibility that you can find medical assistance? In the Exumas, we actually had to use it. In Georgetown, we went to the clinic there when I had a stick impale my foot while we were hiking in the Raggeds, and they were very good. I was impressed with their service there.
And we pulled the dinghy up to the beach right outside of where the hospital is, so it couldn't have been more accessible for us.
But in the San Blas Islands, the nearest clinic that you would probably want to go to is in Panama City. There is a clinic on Nargana, but I'm not sure how equipped they are. We did meet one of the nurses that worked in the Nargana clinic, Mina, and her husband Sammy, and they're lovely, but like I said, I don't know how skilled they are in that clinic.
It's that or the local shaman.
Yeah.
You pick it.
So, and this, in the medical facilities and availability, I would definitely go with the Exumas.
For sure.
When you're cruising, one of the things you look forward to most is having visitors, and we want to talk about the ease of a visitor coming to see you. And in the Exumas, we had a number of our family members fly into Georgetown. And in some cases, we picked them up in Georgetown, but in others, we picked them up in Baratari, which was much easier than having to sail against the wind, as we've talked about, down to Georgetown.
That was a great trick, and you can learn more about it in this video. Also, there's Nassau. It's cheap to fly in and out of Georgetown and Nassau because there's a big cruise community.
Some charter flights to Staniel Key as well.
That's where you need to pick people up if you're in the Exumas, and just stay up in that beautiful area and have them fly in and out of there. It's going to cost them more, but it's going to be easier for you. And that enables you to get up to Wardrook Wells and up to the Exuma
the northern
Park,
part.
if your guests are only going to be there for a week.
Now, if you are chartering a boat, you could fly into Nassau and charter from one of the many companies that are located there and easily come across, well, not easily, that's not often an easy passage from Nassau.
Oh, Mother
to
Nature
Highborn.
sometimes does not permit it, especially with these big northerlies coming in.
But you can get into the Exumas from Nassau chartering. In the San Blas Islands, friends and family fly into Panama City. From there, it is a 3-hour trip in a Jeep to Cartier. From Cartier, it's at least 1 hour, sometimes 1.5 to 2 hours to the island where you are in your boat. The beauty of it is they're delivered. So the total cost for that is $70 US. There's a company, Land Travel, that does that, makes it very convenient for you as a cruiser and someone who flies in, but it is going to be a little bit rough with the elements.
But it's more adventurous, right?
Definitely more adventurous. In the San Blas, there are no charter companies, but there are hundreds of boats that charter for you that have a captain. You cannot bareboat charter yourself. You can experience this area from a charter standpoint if you don't own your own, but I would say the Exumas makes it much more easy for you to get your passengers and charter your own boat. So the last category is safety, and it's really a toss-up. Safety in the Exumas is excellent. It is also excellent in the San Blas Islands. No issues at all. Both, you're encouraged to lift your dinghy at night, but really there's nothing that we have heard that's happening here or in the Exumas for petty theft. Yeah. So these are a lot of categories that we've gone through and a lot of minutia. We love both the Exumas and the San Blas Islands.
We really do.
But if you add up all of the votes for the San Blas versus the Exumas, the San Blas wins.
And we hope that this video will encourage you to come down to the San Blas and try it for yourself and make your own decision. We also want to hear from you. If you've been to both, please comment down below.
We want to say thank you for watching. We hope that you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next week.
We love you guys. Thanks for watching.